All right, YouTube. So today I think I have a small treat for you. This is the Tiger SVD Dragunov. This is made in Russia. These were imported in the early 1990s. There was only several thousand of these rifles imported into the United States. There was several thousand Chinese NDMs, which is a Chinese SVD Dragunov, imported as well. There were very few, I think between 100 and 200 KBI SVD military style Russian Dragunovs imported as well. So the Dragunov rifle is very sought after, collectible, valuable in the United States. So I wanted to show this off. This particular Tiger variant is a hunting style rifle that is marketed by Izhvesh, or rather Izhmash, which is Izhvesh machine in Russia. Okay, so they make this rifle in several different calibers that is available to the rest of the world at this point. However, these are not allowed to be imported anymore due to a treaty that is signed between the United States and Russia that had a list of military items that are not supposed to be essentially exported or imported from Russia or the United States. So these are banned essentially by treaty from import today from Russia. So as you can see, it is a hunting model. It has your wood stock. It's got your padded end there, kind of a nice little line there, kind of your pistol grip, if you will, thumbhole stock. Obviously your sheet metal trigger guard, your trigger. They were imported with 2 5-round magazines, if I remember correctly. They do say Tiger on the receiver. And then they have their Izhmash markings there, Izhvesh, Russia. Some proofs. The safety is much like an AK safety. These do have a rotating bolt, just like an AKM or AK-47 rifle. These do have a bolt carrier. The safety obviously is very much alike, as I mentioned earlier. These do have a milled steel forged receiver. You can kind of see that in there. It's not a stamped receiver. The trigger housing, however, rotates onto this pin and locates into the receiver that way. So this just kind of rotates out if you want to remove it. The trigger housing itself, stamped steel as mentioned, and the receiver forged steel, milled. As I said previously, they were imported with 2 5-round magazines. However, a purchaser could use the 10-round mags. These mags today are expensive in themselves, usually ranging between $75 to $250 depending on who's selling it and what is available at the time. So there's a 10-round mag. That's your 5-round mag. Being that the cartridges are a rimmed cartridge, the 7.62x54 is kind of interesting when it comes to being magazine fed. These rims have to stack in front of one another as they are stacked. That way they don't jam as they are fed. So in a staggered magazine, they need to be fed one after the other. That rim cannot interfere with the next rim. So the magazine itself is a piece of engineering. The rifles came with this 4-power scope. It does take a battery, and it can be illuminated when the battery's inside. It will have an illuminated reticule. Okay, and there's a little switch on the other side that'll show you the range and windage. Elevation rather is all adjustable. You can zero the scope by a couple actions as far as turning the screws loose and then setting the 0 for the rifle. So it's pretty the scope itself, the POSP, if I remember correctly, is pretty user friendly. This eyepiece here is kind of a piece of rubber there that makes a little cushion, so when you're shooting the rifle you can put your eye up against there and the recoil will not bite your face. Even though this rifle doesn't really recoil very hard, being that it's gas operated. It is a gas operated short piston rifle. So you've got your little gas piston up front in here. It's got a kind of like a little transfer rod, and there's a spring, and then that transfers the energy of the round, or rather the gas from the round, to the bolt carrier. Then of course it resets, and then of course strips another round from the magazine to reset everything. Similar to an AK-47, these do have a bolt hold open on the last shot. They're a very well made rifle, and I wish that they would import these again in different calibers, because I think they'd be a hit as far as hunting rifles go. Palmetto State Armory has said that they are in the process, essentially, or early in the process of remanufacturing new SVD style rifles for the United States, and there would be several calibers available, and I think that would be great. I think it's a great rifle. The rifle's capable of about 1 to 2 inches at 100 yards, so basically an honest 2 MOA rifle. Depending on ammo, you can probably get it down lower than that, and the shooter, of course, and conditions. So being that this is a Tiger hunting version of the SVD, you don't get the military SVD stock, you get a hunting style stock, which is the Russian laminate, it's almost like a plywood. Okay, you see the layers there. It's got like a shellac finish on it. It's got the little cap on the bottom there. If you're familiar with the AK series, you'll notice that it has a stamped sheet metal action cover there that kind of clamps on once you lock it on with the lever here. The charging handle is very similar to AK platform. Even though this is not an AK based gun, it is very similar in a lot of ways. You have your gas port there, and then your little gas pistons up in here. It's actually about right there. If you were to move this, pull this and move this away, your handguard will be removable. This is a Tiger Sporter handguard. It's not your true SVD military style handguard. However, these can be replaced with the polymer SVD or the wooden traditional military handguard with no modification. If you notice up here, this model also has a different style front sight. This is, let's see if I can get a better shot of that. There's a blade style front sight, and there's your front sight tower. That, of course, can as well be changed to the military style if somebody wanted to do that and buy those parts. This particular SVD is in brand new, unused condition. I was lucky enough to find a deal. Somebody was selling it, and I purchased it. So this sat for 20 plus years somewhere in somebody's collection, and they were wanting to get rid of it. So I was lucky enough to get it. It still remains unfired today. I have fired SVD Dragunovs in the past, and they are kind of what you expect. They are a 7.62 by 54R round, so it is, even though it's not exactly like shooting an AR, it's a reasonable amount of recoil for the round that it is. It's not painful at all, but you definitely know you're shooting a heavy caliber round. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and turn the rifle over and kind of show you the other side. So if you notice here, you've got your Russian scope. That's the battery compartment. This scope, here's the scope lock. It's not completely locked on right now as I just slid it on for the video. But there's your scope rail. You slide this on and this will lock. The lever goes over and it's very secure. You'll see the Russia markings. I assume that is for on and off. There's a switch back here. I do not have the battery inside right now because I'm not using the rifle. So I keep them removed. That way I don't suffer from any leakage destroying any electronic component in the rifle. If you see there, there's an import mark that says B West, Tucson, Arizona, USA. That's who it was imported by. The barrel on these is 20 inches long. They're a very, very, very cool rifle. You don't see a lot of these. I've never seen another SVD at a gun range other than my own. If you notice the SVD, the styling of it looks like an Olympic style competition rifle. And there is a reason behind that. The guy that designed the SVD, his name was Yevgeny Dragunov. And he also developed Olympic rifles that had won medals in the Olympics and were very successful. So if you can kind of see the competitive rifle styling in the SVD itself. It is very iconic. It's very classic. It definitely has its own look. It's very user-friendly. The Russians developed this in the early 1960s, and it was way ahead of its time. It had an illuminated reticule, a purpose-built scope mount, and a rifle that was designed from the ground up to be a sniper rifle, if you will, designated marksman rifle as we know them today. And it was a very successful system. The SVD Dragunov 63 is a very reliable gun, very effective. And if you want to watch a really good video of somebody shooting a SVD at distance, or rather at range, check out 9-Hole Reviews. He shoots a 308 NDM Chinese SVD and does it very well. If you want to see somebody stretching out, I think it is to 600 or 800 yards with an SVD. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was my pleasure to bring it to you, kind of show you a more or less rare rifle, a very expensive rifle, especially in today's climate. Kind of give you a glimpse into it. The SVD is a very, very nice trigger. It was made to shoot accurately. Before I go away on this video anyways, I wanted to show you kind of how the rounds load in one of these magazines. So here's your SVD 10-round magazine, and you can kind of see there's your bolt hold open latch. As you notice up front, there's 2 small feed ramps to feed these rounds. This magazine is a feat of engineering in itself. If you notice that the magazine curves backward and then forward again. So it actually doesn't just curve forward, it actually goes backward, and that's because of the rim on the cartridge. It has to be that weird, interesting engineered design. So as I'm putting these rounds in, these rims have to stack one in front of another, or else they will not feed, they'll get bound up. And if you notice, each round has its own little feed ramp. And it goes in and locks in just like kind of an AK. So you've got your front latch there, point, and then your rear point there. This magazine holds 10 rounds. The one currently in the rifle that it came with, or came with 2 of, holds 5 rounds. There has not been any high capacity magazines that I know of that were made in any numbers for the SVD. I have seen a picture of a prototypical Bakelite 15-round magazine, but that was like out of a Russian museum or something. So anyways, I wanted to show you those things, and I hope you enjoyed this video because I enjoyed making it. And thank you for watching.